The crystal champagne flute shattered against the marble floor of the grand ballroom, punctuating my stepmother Victoria's dramatic entrance. "Stop this engagement immediately," she cried out, her voice carrying across the room of 200 stunned guests. "She's nothing but a gold digger." I'm Catherine Morgan, though in legal circles I'm better known as Kate Morgan, founding partner of Morgan and Chen International Law. Not that Victoria knew this part. To her, I was just her husband's troublesome daughter who'd never lived up to her standards of society success. My fiancé, James Chen, grabbed my hand as Victoria stalked toward us, her designer heels crunching over broken glass. "You have no idea what you're getting into," she announced to James. "She's after your family's shipping fortune, just like she tried to steal her father's money when I married him." The irony of being called a gold digger by the woman who'd married my father for his money wasn't lost on me. Victoria had swooped into our lives 5 years ago, when I was already a successful attorney but keeping my career achievements quiet to avoid family drama. "Mrs. Morgan," James said calmly, his hand steady in mine, "I think you're making a scene." "A scene?" Victoria laughed sharply. "I'm trying to save your family's legacy. Do you know she refused to sign a prenup when she married her first husband? Took him for everything in the divorce." Now that was interesting, considering I'd never been married before. Victoria was so caught up in her own narrative she was inventing stories. "Actually," I said, my voice carrying in the suddenly silent room, "I think it's time we discuss prenups. James, would you get the envelope from your jacket?" James smiled, understanding in his eyes as he pulled out a thick legal document. What Victoria didn't know was that James wasn't just my fiancé, he was also my law partner's brother, and we prepared for something like this. The thing about Victoria was that she'd never bothered to really know me. When she married my father, she'd taken one look at my simple lifestyle, the modest apartment, the used car, the lack of designer labels, and decided I was a failure. She never asked what I did for a living, never showed interest in my life beyond criticizing it. She didn't know that I built one of the most successful international law firms in Los Angeles, specializing in corporate law and, ironically, prenuptial agreements. That I lived simply by choice, investing my considerable income instead of flaunting it. That I'd met James not at a society function as she assumed, but in court, where I was representing his family's shipping company in a complex international dispute. "What's that?" Victoria demanded, eyeing the envelope suspiciously. "This," I said, opening the document, "is our prenuptial agreement. Would you like to read it?" Victoria snatched the papers, her expression smug. But as she read, her face began to pale. The prenup detailed my assets, the law firm, my real estate holdings, my investment portfolio. More importantly, it showed that my net worth was actually higher than James's. "This is impossible," she whispered. "You're just a what?" I asked quietly. "A gold digger? A failure? Or maybe a founding partner of Morgan and Chen International Law, one of the top law firms on the West Coast." The room had gone completely silent, every guest watching this drama unfold. My father stood near the back, his expression unreadable. He'd known about my success, of course, but had kept my secret at my request, understanding my desire to avoid Victoria's interference. "If you'd ever bothered to ask," I continued, "you'd know that I'm the one who helped restructure the Chen Shipping Corporation last year, saving them millions in international taxes. That's how James and I met." Victoria's hands were shaking as she flipped through the pages. "But, your apartment, your car. Our choices," James finished for me. "Kate taught me something important about wealth, that true success isn't about showing off. It's about building something meaningful." I saw the exact moment Victoria realized how badly she miscalculated. Her carefully constructed narrative of the poor stepdaughter trying to marry into money was crumbling around her designer shoes. "Now," I said, taking the prenup back from her trembling hands, "I believe you were just leaving." But Victoria had one more card to play. She turned to appeal to the crowd, her society mask firmly in place. "Surely you can all see through this charade. Papers can be faked, stories invented." Actually, a familiar voice cut in. "Everything about Ms. Morgan's success is very real." Bernard Chen, James's father and the head of Chen Shipping, stepped forward. "She's been our corporate counsel for years. In fact, she's the reason our company survived the trade crisis last year." Victoria's face crumpled as she realized she'd just publicly attacked someone with connections to one of the most powerful families in Los Angeles business circles. My father finally spoke up from the back of the room. "Victoria, I think it's time for us to go." But Victoria wasn't finished. As she turned to leave, she spat out one final accusation. "You've been lying to us all these years, pretending to be less than you are. What kind of person does that?" "The kind," I replied calmly, "who learned early on to watch for people who only value others for their money. You taught me that lesson, Victoria, though not in the way you intended." As the security team my firm had hired discreetly escorted Victoria out, I felt James squeeze my hand. We'd known something like this might happen. Victoria had been escalating her interference ever since our engagement was announced. But we planned for every contingency just like we did in our legal practice. What we hadn't planned for was what happened next. My father remained behind after Victoria left, approaching us slowly with an expression I hadn't seen since before my mother died. "Katie," he said softly, using my childhood nickname, "I think it's time we had a long talk about a lot of things." I looked at James, who nodded encouragingly. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just exposing the truth. It's finally being free to live it openly. The band started playing again, but the night had shifted into something different than we planned. Sometimes that's how the best stories unfold, not according to the careful script, but in the messy, honest moments when masks fall away and truth emerges. The question was, what would happen next? After the engagement party drama, my father and I found ourselves in my office at Morgan & Chen, surrounded by the evidence of the success I'd kept quiet about for so long. Awards lined the walls, client testimonials sat framed on shelves, and the view of Los Angeles at night spread out before us through floor-to-ceiling windows. "I should have stood up to her sooner," he said, running his finger along a deal tombstone from a billion-dollar merger I'd orchestrated. "Should have told her the truth about your career." "It wasn't your truth to tell," I replied, pouring us both some scotch from my private collection. "I asked you to keep it quiet." "But why, Katie? Why hide your success for so long?" I considered the question, watching the amber liquid swirl in my glass. "At first, it was about proving myself without family connections. Then, after you married Victoria, it became a kind of test. I wanted to see who she really was, how she'd treat me when she thought I had nothing." "She failed that test spectacularly," my father said grimly. "She did. But so did you, in a way." The words came out before I could stop them, years of buried hurt rising to the surface. "You watched her belittle me, dismiss me, treat me like I was worthless, all while knowing the truth." His face crumpled with shame. I thought I was protecting your wishes by keeping your success private, but I was really just protecting myself from conflict." Before we could delve deeper, James arrived with news. Victoria had been busy since leaving the engagement party, calling our clients, trying to spread doubts about my firm's integrity. "She doesn't realize," James said, showing us the messages on his phone, "that she's actually committing defamation against one of the top litigation firms in the state." I smiled, feeling a familiar strategic calm settle over me. "Have our PR team monitor all communications, document everything, and contact Victoria's social clubs, the ones where she's always bragging about her society connections." "Already done," James confirmed. "The presidents of the Heritage Society and the Garden Club would like to speak with you of their legal representation." My father watched this exchange with growing understanding. "You're not just successful," he said slowly. "You're powerful. Actually powerful, not just rich." "Money is easy," I told him. "Real power comes from building something meaningful, something that helps others succeed." I gestured to a wall of photos, my pro bono cases, the charitable foundations I'd helped establish, the mentorship programs for young lawyers. The next few weeks were interesting. Victoria, discovering that her social circle was rapidly shrinking as people learned the truth, tried several approaches. First came anger, threatening to expose some imagined scandal about my past. Then bargaining, offering to reconcile if I helped her maintain her social position. Finally, she tried something unexpected: honesty. "I was jealous," she admitted during a mediation session James had arranged. "Not of your money. I didn't know about that. I was jealous of your relationship with your father, of your independence, of the way you didn't seem to need anyone's approval." "And now?" I asked, genuinely curious. "Now I realize I've lost everything I was afraid of losing." my social standing, my influence, my husband's trust. She looked smaller somehow, without her usual armor of designer clothes and society airs. I don't suppose there's any way to fix this. I thought about it carefully. In law, as in life, sometimes the best settlements come from unexpected places. Actually, I said there might be. Not to fix the past, but to build something new. Over the next several months, Victoria underwent a transformation. With my firm's guidance, she channeled her social networking skills into legitimate business development. She turned out to have a talent for connecting clients, for seeing opportunities where others saw only obstacles. You're not just giving her a second chance, James observed as we watched Victoria successfully charm a group of potential international clients. You're giving her something she never had, a chance to create her own success. My father, too, was changing. He started taking a real interest in my work, not just as a proud parent, but as someone trying to understand the world I'd built. He attended client meetings, asking intelligent questions, offering insights from his years of business experience. Last week, we had another party, this time to celebrate Morgan and Chen's expansion into international markets. Victoria was there, not as my antagonistic stepmother, but as our firm's new client relations director. She earned the position, proving that people can grow when given the right opportunities. I understand now, she told me quietly during a celebration, why you lived the way you did. It was never about the money or the status. It was about building something real. My father, overhearing this, joined us with James. She taught me the same lesson, he said. That true worth isn't in what you appear to be, but in what you actually build. James raised his glass. To building things that matter. And to family, I added, surprising myself. Both the kind we're born with and the kind we create. Today, Morgan and Chen continues to grow, but with a new division focused on helping women build their own businesses. Victoria runs it, bringing her social skills and newly discovered business acumen to help others find their path to success. My father has become one of our most valuable advisors, his years of experience now dedicated to something larger than himself. He and Victoria are working on their relationship, learning to base it on real partnership rather than social expectations. As for me, the simple apartment has been replaced by a home that reflects my success, but still prioritizes comfort over show. The used car gave way to something more practical for a senior partner, but not the flashy status symbol Victoria once thought I needed. Yesterday, Victoria brought me a client, a young woman starting her own company, afraid of being dismissed for her lack of connections. Remind you of anyone? Victoria asked with a knowing smile. I looked at the eager entrepreneur, remembering my own early days, and made a decision. Tell me, I said, how do you feel about starting small and building something meaningful? Sometimes the best revenge isn't just proving people wrong. It's helping them become right.